So the next thing we want to look at here is persisting the conversations that we have with the agents. So we'll go ahead and create some database models. So let's first go in and create a AI agent, and that is going to have a name. It's going to have a description, some instructions, and it's going to have tools as well. So a list of tools that it's allowed to access and do things with. So that should be enough for the AI agent. Oh, because we've already got our agent code in here, let's just copy this to one side and go through and delete, and then let's run that again. So we've got our migration here. We're going to say name is null false, same here, and tools will say defaults to an empty array. And we can run those migrations, and then we can go to our AI agent active record, and we'll just take all of our code here that we previously had and paste it inside and hit save again. So the only difference now is when you call AI agent run, that it's an active record, but we're not even doing any database stuff with it just yet. So we can leave that as is for now. The next thing we want to do is generate another model for AI agent task. And the task is basically a conversation. So every time that you ask an agent to do something, and there's a bit of back and forth with messages or whatever, that's one task, and we'll store all of that context around that in the database. So we'll say AI agent task is going to have an agent references, and it's going to have many messages. So we'll add those as another model, and we could make a user references and team references as well in there in order to keep this for the current user and the current team and all that sort of stuff. The other thing we're going to add is a parent task. So we're going to say parent task references, and that's just something to future-proof parent-child relationships with these agents, so that when we get to multiple agents, we can connect them together in a workflow. And then we're also going to add a status column just to have some sort of track over how these tasks are being processed. So we'll generate that and run. And if we come in here, parent task is to table AI agent tasks. User and team are fine like that. And then agent is to table AI agents. Status will say null is false, default is pending. And then we're going to generate one for messages. So we'll say Rails G model AI agent message. Message is going to have an agent task, which is references. It's going to have a role, which is a string, content, which is text. And then we're going to have tool calls JSON and tool call ID as a string. So those are going to be used when we come to start using tools. For now, we don't really need to worry about them too much. So if we go to our agent messages, we've got agent task, and we just need to make sure this is to table to reference it correctly. Role, we're going to say null false. We always need a role. And for everything else, we can allow null, because depending on the message type, content might be blank, tool call ID might be blank, tool calls might be blank. So for now, we'll just save this and leave it be. We can run our migrations again. So we should have all our models set up now. The only thing we'll want to do is go into our agent task, and we've got belongs to agent here. We'll need class name AI agent, class name agent task for this, and it's also optional true, which I'm not actually sure now that I've done in the migration, so I might need to roll back quickly. Yes, I've made that null false, so we're going to need to just do a quick rollback and change this so it's null true, and then we can go to migrate again. So we've got that as optional true, that's good. And then if we go to our agent messages, we've got belongs to agent task, get the class name in there. And we'll go to agent task and say has many messages, and we'll save this. So now let's try and rework our UI a little. So we currently have the message component, which takes the message of a hash, which just has role and content. So we're going to want to change this around so that it's actually creating messages. So for the first thing we're going to do here on the show action, we're going to say we're going to create an agent. So we're going to say where name is general assistant, and we'll say that the description is general assistant. There we go. And instructions, perfect. So let's do first our create on this. So every time we hit this show view, it's gonna first time create this agent, second time just gonna load up that agent for us. We could move that code into the agent model itself, but for now we'll just leave it here. Next thing then we want to do is add task, and we want to do agent task create with the agent, with the current user, and with the current team. So we've got all of that set up. Hit save, and now we've got access to our agent and our task, and we can post off. So let's say we've got task equals params task ID. We could even do that by current user or anything like that, but for now this will be perfectly fine, even if it's not very secure. And we can say task messages create role user and content of the message, so we can get rid of all this now, and we'll go through here and call this user message. And then instead of passing an array of messages to our agent, we're going to pass our task, and this is running against new agent, which isn't really the right way of doing it. Let's just say task.agent.run and then pass in the task. Seems a bit strange, but let's roll with it. So let's save here, and again we append our first message, which is fine, and we append the response here as well. So I think what we want to do when the response comes back out, I'm going to create a new message with the role of the response and the content of the response. So that should come back as assistant and whatever the assistant replied with, and we'll call this assistant message and paste that in here. So let's hit save on this. Now our actual messages, if we go to the message component, they should now take a active record object with a role, so we can call dot role on this and hit save. And if we go into the HTML, again here dot role, and here dot content, and we'll hit save. So hopefully if I've done all of this right, we come back here and reload. First of all, we get undefined method team for an instance of current, so that's not good. Let's go here and say current.user.team. We're back up and running again, so that's good. Let's just test and hit send a message. We get nothing added here, so that is probably because we're 404ing because we're not passing the task ID. So we've got task, we need to go back to our show view, come down to the form here and do a hidden field with the task ID, hit save. Let's test this again. Undefined method each for an instance of a task message. So that is because we have updated our agent code, so it no longer takes messages, it takes a task, and we'll say task.messages.ordered. We can change this to role message content and hit save. We just need to go to our agent task and add a scope. So let's say scope ordered, perfect. We'll add dependent destroy in here just because that's probably a good idea. So now if we come back, refresh this, try it again one more time, hit send, undefined method ordered for the messages because I've put that on the wrong model. So I've put that onto the agent task when it should go onto the messages. And the other thing that we need to do is redraw our form after we post a message. So we'll do that quickly. If we go to close the message component, go to the show view, and we'll create a new partial called _form, and we can grab the form here and give it an ID. So we can go here and say HTML ID message form and hit save. And in here, we just want to render that. And I always like to do partials like this rather than the template rendering thing. And I always like to put in the full path as well. I don't really trust the Rails guessing partials thing fully. So if we come back here, reload, and we'll go to the controller. We'll do another turbo stream here. So we'll say replace message form, and that looks good. And then come here and say hi, post that. So what do we get? Undefined method ID for nil. So we have got something using instance variables when it should use fill variables. See if they're, now that's working. So we can give it context and say, my name is Pete. How can I help you today? Then I can say, what's my name? Your name is Pete. So we know that that's all working now. It's getting the full list of messages every time, and it's got conversation history essentially. So that's how we can connect up with LangChain and basically build a chatbot. It doesn't necessarily need to be a chatbot, but the assistant can kind of take input and come back to you with more questions and things like that. So some of the prompting skills that we're going to see, that stuff's really valuable, that it can ask you questions in return in order to continue to iterate on the content and just keep getting better. So I hope that's helpful, and in the next video we'll look at storing the prompts in the database so that we can create agents really quickly and effortlessly.